Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Battle Chef Brigade Deluxe. I was looking at the overlay screenshot on Steam and the intro video since I exited it out and relaunched it, and one of the things that is reasserted to me is this really should be a game that shows people eating food a lot more. And you do see in the intro video the main character eat like one meal very enthusiastically, very anime-esque. But every other time actually in the game, you just have the judges talk about your dish. You don't see them actually take a bite. You don't see them actually enjoy eating it. You don't see any of the other characters enjoy eating any other food. It once again takes this game from being what it should be, which is what I think it should be, is kind of like a food porn-esque, if you're familiar with that Reddit subreddit of r/food porn. It should be a fetish game that is totally about showing pretty food and people enjoying food in kind of a mukbang style. Let's hit continue. Now, we didn't particularly save when I exited. I can now see that, so we have this whole section that we have already been through, that conversation. Yeah, I really don't get why this game couldn't just pause at any point.
Travelers to and from the capital, but we're getting some unpleasant feedback lately.
The Steam background image shows like one more character, but that is it. So I think we've seen nearly everybody we're going to see in this story.
I told you, didn't I? The produce from the market has been tasting strange for a while now.
It seems like this world might be on the verge of famine.
You need to confront the Brigadiers head on. We're paying good coin for their catches.
Ma, it's even more serious than that. People are getting sick.
So there was this idea that the meat was cursed from these monsters that they were cooking and eating. Could it very well have been that the meat was cursed and it just took a very long time to catch up?
From our food?
It's hard to pinpoint, but we may be contributing to the problem, along with some other restaurants.
Who's gotten sick?
This story seems to be going in a very weird direction. Like, once again, the game feels like it's just trying to tell you a story that it wanted to tell, and then they just crammed in the idea of being an Iron Chef parody around that. And you may take note that, as far as I know, there has never been any storyline to the Iron Chef series. If there was any kind of storyline, it would be a long-running rivalry between chefs battling each other, and I don't think that there's really too much of that. I do know, in my limited watching of Iron Chef over the years, one of the American Iron Chef competitors won enough and was just TV marketable enough that they eventually made him a Iron Chef. And I bet they've probably cycled out some of the other Iron Chef challengers. Not the challengers, but the Iron Chefs themselves, as they got old and just weren't probably tired of doing it.
Actually, I just saw Alex. He's running a fever, and I heard Simon isn't feeling well either.
Let's see. Do we know somebody named Alex or Simon?
All of the restaurants get their goods from the same Brigadiers. There has to be something going on that we don't know about.
What's funny here is the single source of food would be incredibly dangerous, and it is something that certainly has happened in the real world, that the monoculture or the mono sourcing of food has become fairly dangerous.
What's going on? Are we not opening today?
No, I'm afraid not. Mina, I think we need you to do some hunting for us, though.
So they're gonna have her hunt for food themselves, which it does kind of put an interesting question on how this society really would have worked, because it doesn't seem like you really need a license unless Mina just happens to have a license to hunt. That would be a very old school thing that they used to have in feudal times, where the king owned all the land in the entire area, and you would need a license to hunt on the king's land, even if you were starving to death. And they would definitely arrest and throw people in jail for quote-unquote poaching, which could easily be also explained away as trying to feed yourself as you're starving to death. But without a license in this society, which is much more modern looking society, although this society in this game seems to be all over the place, you would assume that almost everybody would have the ability to hunt and get their own food. So I don't know what the real reason for the brigade to exist is, unless they're going deep into the forest to fight dragons and very big creatures.
The produce we purchased just isn't holding up once it's cooked. We'll need more from the backyard to make up for it.
Yeah, they seem to get their food from two different sources.
Sure thing. I'll get right to it.
But they seem not to grow anything, which seems weird. At the very least.
Interesting.
So the cat stole a coin. Interesting. And so that's a real cat in the foreground. Like, if you look in the foreground, you see what looks like a prep station, and I don't think the game has been zoomed out this much before, because I thought this was like a table. So if this is a prep station, then there must be like a whole restaurant entrance on the other side of this, which then kind of makes a question as to why is there a decoration on that door. Yeah, once again, it does look like there's some kind of blight on these plants. Okay. So let's try and kill these ones that are fresh. See, there's like a red variant on that guy, and that's like a blighted egg. Interesting. Also kind of feels like we are getting getting health when we return. Yeah, I don't know if these birds are supposed to indicate that they would drop different types of meat, or if that is just a depiction of them being poisoned. Because look, you've got the little clear white ones, and then they've got this little red highlight around it. And I'm saying blight, but I guess the better term to use would be poisoned. But it doesn't look like any of that food is affected by that, at least on the face of it.
That was strange. The monsters are so... I don't really know what word to use.
So
Agitated?
they're like a second tier creatures that have some kind of disease, I assume, that are harder to kill. Although I really didn't feel much of a difference there actually in the game. And I don't know if that really is the way to speed up that or like increase the difficulty gradually of that part of the gameplay mechanic. I would kind of prefer there just to be either more creatures or more of a landmass to have to move around to collect. Like, or just one really strong boss character. I don't see the incremental increase in time that it will take to kill each creature being a benefit to the gameplay experience, because all of the cooking challenges are under a timer, so I'm going to have potentially less ingredients and or less time to cook in the future battles, and I'm already not doing particularly well in the battles, and the game is just cheating to let me win.
On our walk to the market, Charles spun a tale about how he fended off a raging bow run from destroying his farm. At first, I thought he was boastful, but now I'm not so sure.
Charles is the male friend.
Simon's dad does love to exaggerate.
Oh wait, no, Charles is the father of Simon.
True, but Simon mentioned the attack yesterday. I don't think this is one of Charles's tall tales.
If they're gonna mention a character like the father of Simon's dad, they probably should have shown him.
So what's this have to do with the market's goods?
I can't say for sure, but these monsters concern me. Their behavior's tumultuous at the best of times, and now they're more ferocious than ever.
So it seems like the war that I've been expecting to happen is going to be a war with the creatures, as they seem to be under some generic control, either disease or magic. I wouldn't be surprised if it is magic and there is just like a dark wizard somewhere out there that has been sending the monsters for hundreds of years, and then he finally said, hey, they decided to let the monsters grow and thrive in their own backyards, even because they found them to be a useful source of meat. Let me wait 100 years, 200 years until there were just monsters very, very close and very, very numerous around these people, and then I'll just flip a switch with my magic and have all the monsters turn into ferocious things. Kind of in the way, if you thought about like a Pokemon game, if all of a sudden someone could magically turn all the Pokemon into evil Pokemon that would attack their owners, let's face it, that would completely ruin all of the Pokemon worlds, because they have them all over the place.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn they've been evolving.
Evolving is another thought, certainly, if it turns out that these characters start switching into different formats. Like, I still feel like the birds should have a earth variant, a water variant, and a fire variant, and that they would lay different kinds of eggs and give different kinds of meat.
Yeah, the timing is definitely suspicious. Plus, we haven't noticed anything weird with the grain Simon's brought over.
So maybe Simon's family is the farmers, and they bring all the vegetables.
So only the monster meat has changed.
This is gonna be weird if this game ends with everybody just killing all the monsters and becoming vegans.
That's what we're thinking.
But honestly, that probably would have been a decent thought. Like, instead of living with the status quo, the Battle Chef Brigade should be trying to completely eliminate all the monsters and just promote veganism instead.
Mina, you've got the sharpest senses out of all of us. Take a closer look at these ingredients for us, will you?
Okay. I hate to admit it, but I've been neglecting my responsibilities these past few days.
Yeah. And even when we have voice lines of dialogue like this, it still feels weird because the characters aren't moving or flapping their lips or just emoting like humans. It feels very comic booky.
You don't need to tell us that. No offense, sleepyhead.
It's okay, Mina. Get the stove going and let's do some tests.
Okay. So, our goal is 75. And at the looks of it, what we have in the pantry does seem to have some negative effects. So if I was to add this, and then we're gonna try and mix this, what does that do? That seems to do nothing bad. But then that crashed on a fire. Oh, okay, so you have only a certain amount of moves you can do before it crashes on you. Well, that's interesting. But if it crashes on you otherwise, you're fine. So, once again, she's just making the exact same stuff all over again. It's just so incredibly dull for cooking style.
Yeah, I see some weird strands running through this marbling.
So apparently, instead of the cooking minigame being a metaphor, there's just like an almost direct relation to it. Like, she does seem to magically be able to see these elements. Once again, she's just cooking a boring Asian looking dish. I mean, they're boring because it's repetitive.
The monster parts are breaking down more and more with every stir.
Interesting.
It doesn't taste too different at first, but when overmixed, it begins to sour.
So they really are trying hard here to make this part of the game the important part, but I don't know if that's the right move at all. Like, what first and foremost is this? Well, that just broke a lot of stuff and drastically changed the dish. Alright. So if I put that and I put that, and I put that, those three merge together and just disappear. This is just getting worse and worse. So you combine that and it doesn't really do anything for you, and being in that slot after the fact doesn't seem to really do anything. I feel like I have just an infinite amount of this squeakle tentacle also. Alright. So we don't even know what our loadout is, so if there is some like special loadout element here, don't really know what that is. Alright. So I'm gonna put that there. Okay.
What about these purple spots? You see them?
So the purple spots, you match 3 and then you put a gem in that place and it'll upgrade it. That's what I was thinking it would do.
They're popping as we cook. Gross. We didn't actually serve this to customers, did we?
No way we did. This must be from spoiling within the past day.
The food seems to be spoiling incredibly fast.
Ugh, there's definitely a foulness to the taste now. I've never in my life seen this before.
Well, you certainly seem calm. Didn't you inspect the produce before buying?
Aw, pointing fingers isn't going to help anything. Ma, Pa, I think we should look at what Mina brought in from the garden earlier.
They're just as bad even though they're from our backyard.
Then it might not be the Brigadier's fault.
That just leaves a problem with the monsters themselves. How could this happen?
This is a really long-winded way of just saying that...
Sure, but we'll have to be extra careful from now on. When you took the right precautions, it seemed like the poison dissipated.
So that's poison. We've seen poison mentioned before, but we haven't actually seen it in play. And I feel like you could have just introduced this whole new element by having an emergency meeting at the Proving Ground tournament. Here's what I would have done to write into this. First of all, don't get her expelled from the Proving Tournament. That seems like a pointless speed bump to the story. Instead, on the next day, have on a loudspeaker be announced, or have your instructor show up and talk to you and say, there's an emergency meeting, all challenges are suspended for today, come to this meeting and listen to this presentation. You have the head of the brigade show up and give a large speech, like the intro speech that he gave, saying that we've discovered this new this change to the meat and there's poison, and we're currently investigating it. If you know anything, let us know. We know this much so far. You could have done that in like a 5-minute story, bit of dialogue, instead of having us go back home and figure out the same bit of information and having that take what feels like 40 minutes.
It'll take more time to prep ingredients, but it's time I'm willing to take to ensure our food is safe.
Now, in the real world, you can definitely poison people with improperly cooking or preparing food, like having raw meat touch vegetables or not be cooked to a proper temperature, having things specifically come out of the danger zone or into the danger zone is your main focus. So you want things below 40 degrees to not have an ideal situation in which bacteria will grow, or above, I believe, about 140 degrees Fahrenheit to kill germs and viruses and bacteria when cooking them. So if you're cooking meat, you want it above 140. You don't want to let it cool down below 140. And if you are going to freeze or leave anything like that, you'd want to get it down below 40 degrees Fahrenheit as fast as possible. You need water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, but ideally you want your freezer to be closer to 0 or at 0, and you probably want your refrigerator somewhere around 34 degrees, 36 degrees. There's not a lot of room between your refrigerator temperature that you would want things refrigerated at and that 40 degree danger zone. You don't want to cross-contaminate by, say, using a cutting board to cut meat and then then using that same cutting board to then cut vegetables, because the juices and the bacteria from the meat can cross-contaminate. You want to wash your hands like crazy. If you're cooking something extremely exotic like fugu, which nobody should, there's probably only 1 to maybe 20 people that are skilled and crafted enough to cook something that actually has poison in it, like fugu. I think it's called fugu. So most people would not run into that. You can, there are some localization differences where, like, the milk in the United States is different than the milk in Europe. So the milk in the United States needs to be refrigerated, where milk in Europe doesn't really need to do that. Same is somewhat true for the eggs in Europe and the eggs in the United States. But most basic things are fine. If you cut yourself, make sure you're not bleeding into the food, obviously. But there's very little people cook that's poisonous. Bones in food is a bit of a dangerous, certainly. Cooking a lot of fish or eating more than like 1 fish meal per week probably will give you a too high level of mercury. But yeah, for the most part, you're fine. The bigger danger, I would say, in the kitchen is if you say mix or clean with bleach. You breathing in that is dangerous. Mixing bleach with basically anything is dangerous. So the cleaning products often can be the most dangerous part of the kitchen, on top of just the knives.
Are we going to be able to open up again?
Let's keep testing our recipes tomorrow, and then we'll see.
So that we just skip an entire day.
Good work, Mina. I'm going to talk to the rest of the village leaders about our discovery.
Interesting.
Yeah, good work, Mimi. If there's nothing else to do here, I need to get back to Alex and make sure he's alright.
See, I don't get the point of skipping this day.
Okay, Mina, you and I should keep going for a little while longer. I have a few more ideas.
So it really feels like what they wanted is they had a timeline that they were just so pot committed to when writing this story that they're willing to give you this whole conversation and this whole section just to skip forward.
I wonder if he's made it in yet.
And here we have Mina in a different, I guess, sleeping outfit is what you'd call it, which, why would you pay an artist to draw 2 separate outfits? I don't know. And why would you use this outfit only here when it would have made a lot more sense if this was always her sleeping outfit? There's nothing particularly exposing about this outfit. You could have used this every single evening to have her write home when she was in the proving tournament, which she said she was going to do, and then they didn't show her ever doing it. And maybe the letter from Thrash will now bring her back to the proving tournament or into the action.
Artie is sick. Kieran's making an antidote, and there's some place called the Dark Realm?
Yeah, it's crazy for them to introduce a Dark Realm. Who's Artia? I have no idea. Who's Kieran? I don't know. Like, at this point, it would be helpful to just have a log. This is getting into the problem of a lot of RPG games where you almost need a diary and a log here that would tell you who is who and show their picture. Wow. And you know what? I'm looking at the top here. It says July 12th, Shiv, Leonid, Kieran, and Caesar. That's the list of everybody I beat in the order that I beat them in the proving tournament. So do you get like an incredibly different story based on branching paths based on who you beat? If that's the case, that I could not imagine going through this. Even if I turned on like speedrun mode, like I can't imagine wanting to go through the story or getting a different story. It might explain the weirdness of the story, and it might explain the lack of quality in the writing if they were writing from multiple branching paths, but at the end of the day, I think that just is a director's failure to realize, hey, let's just do one linear experience, because that's how most people are going to experience this game, and I'm not sure even most people would make it all the way to the end.
And I'm at home worrying about spoiled meat and sick customers. It's kind of weird that everyone's getting sick at the same time. I wonder if this monster problem reaches farther than Windy Village.
And now they're introducing that the city she lives in is Windy Village, which at any point they could have had a loading screen say this was Windy Village, or just mention it, or they could have just easily never mentioned it.
I should look at as many cuts of monster as I can tomorrow. Maybe there's some way I can help. Dear Thrash.
So apparently, this is how she's going to get back in the action, as everybody else is going to get poisoned. And they don't show what she actually wrote. And not only was that one day, that was like 3 days.
I'm going to gather some ingredients, Ma.
Thank you, dear.
And I wonder if perhaps what is
Told you
happening
she just
here.
needed to keep working. I know my daughters.
That's a weird pose to have animated with her stretching her arm like that. That they're now having to use that more than they probably should. It could be that
Karma.
every single day
Sure.
does have a story experience, but it's only for certain paths. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we like, I wouldn't be surprised if it does turn out to be a case where so what turns the piranhas into flying piranhas? Do they have to eat a bird? Is that what happens? Do they have to eat a bird when they're not already damaged? Throwing the daggers still not really is still not really that useful. I feel like there probably is an achievement for filling the pantry with non-poison food.
Oh,
Looks like the dad's flowers are blooming. But it also feels like you'd probably waste a lot of
The
time on
doors
that.
are open. Let's get to it.
guess I'll have to test these after the lunch rush.
Alright, so here we go.
Oh, wow, that looks great.
And let's see. I think there's a point here where you should just move faster and not think about things,
Oh, excellent.
because there's just that possibility of
Delicious.
interesting. So now we've got the thing messing up on us.
Alright.
So we'll have to be particularly careful as far as
Thank you.
getting matches. And I don't know if there really is a benefit to...
Oh, I forgot to tell you two. Finish up that Karana pancake dish for me, would you?
Dad said the other restaurants are doing better with their ingredients since we did our demonstration for them.
2-century egg appetizers, Mina.
But the pickings are slim. We need to
This
avoid
is
the
getting
purple splotched
crazy
meat
with
for now.
the
People are still getting sick from it.
with the
So,
talking
looks
while
like
you're
we'll be
playing.
limited on our ingredients till we figure things out.
And I don't really see the point here of having the restaurant patrons depicted at the top, instead of just focusing solely on the actual dish.
Choice.
Let's see. Yeah, I feel like the dish in particular.
Thanks.
I'm proud of you, Mina. Our menu will still have to cut down on quite a few recipes until this is sorted out, but we couldn't have reopened without you.
Yeah, if there's a good path where you still would be in the proving ground during this point, you would almost certainly be getting more items. And there's definitely some weirdness on just the lack of money I had and the vast amount of items and upgrades you could have purchased.
Thanks, Ma. I'm going to keep doing more experiments tonight. Maybe I'll find out even more.
The problem with this idea, if you flip it opposite wise, is if there was a scenario where you were still in the proving ground, you'd still be doing puzzles, you'd still be doing hunts, you'd still be working at the restaurant, getting a lot more money. You still would probably have to be doing an investigation to learn this new gameplay mechanic. So I can't really believe that there is a branching path.
We'll all stick around and help.
But perhaps
Alex is still feeling kind of sick and
just
doesn't want to eat very much.
a little bit of story changes based on who you defeat, but not much.
He's sticking to vegetables for now. Maybe you two can teach me something to serve him.
Is it that Saskia can't cook at all?
Have you made him my signature dumpling soup yet?
Ma, that dish is only for when we're serious. You know that.
Yeah, she's still... The mother's still pushing the older sister to get married.
I don't know if it's because he's sick, but I'm not sure if he wants to start going steady.
Well, hurry it up. Your father and I aren't getting any younger.
Ma! Oh, this one's from Kieran.
Yeah, we're getting so railroaded here. Almost certainly because at this point they've realized that the 2-hour point, or the point of no return, wherever that would actually be in the game, has been passed. And so either you're pot committed to keep on playing this game, or you would have already rage quit. So that they are just railroading you through story, railroading you through sections in what is a very bad way to tell a kinetic visual novel.
Mina, I've only slept 4.5 hours in the last 5 days, so forgive me for being terse.
See, now that would have been a lot better if they had voiced things and put a picture of those characters when mentioning them, instead of having pictures of random customers above the challenges when cooking.
After my work on Thrash's antidote, Belgior asked me to work with him on a new brigade assignment.
Yeah, Kieran was the medicinal cook, so it makes sense why she would make the antidote.
They've tasked us with identifying and containing a possible monster mutation. The samples I've taken are concerning. I don't wish to engage in speculation before my tests are complete, but I think there's more going on here than they suspect.
This is funny that Thrash or Kieran would particularly write to you. Like, it's a real failure of the game to make it feel like you were really friends with those people. Like, you had the beginnings of a friendly relationship, certainly, but it's not like you've known Kieran all your life or Thrash all your life. I don't know why they would write a letter specifically to you, particularly in this case where Kieran may be divulging like confidential information that the Iron Brigade, the Battle Chef Brigade, wouldn't have wanted leaked out.
So the monsters are acting weird everywhere. A mutation, though? Isn't that just a blight?
And they're gonna use the word blight too.
If that's true, Kieran and Thrash will need all the help they can get. I've got to tell her everything I know. Kieran, I hope this letter doesn't come too late, but I've been seeing issues with the monsters here too.
It's actually frankly insulting here because you show that she seems to care enough to write to these people she barely met, and yet she didn't care enough to write to her family even though she promised to. That really sticks in the craw as far as the characterization of Mina.
You're looking much better, Simon.
Still just on broth right now. What's the deal with the letter?
It's from the Brigade.
Based on the findings of our top researchers, we regret to inform the populace that Victusia is facing a potentially catastrophic monster mutation event.
So, is Victusia the entire land, or is it the entire kingdom?
Due to the severity of the outbreak, we're putting all able-bodied battle chefs on full alert. We've isolated the problematic traits and determined that all monsters are not yet affected, but our investigation is ongoing.
For as much as we hunt and use for meat, since the animals are wild and not being like ranched and intentionally bred, the monsters seem like they breed incredibly fast. which if they have a mutation that's passed along generation to generation, it almost in a surety means every monster will be infected very quickly, unless there's some kind of antidote or counter mutation or something that happens.
Our primary focus must switch to containing this outbreak. To that end, the proving tournament will be put on hold until the situation is under control.
So the proving tournament was still going on.
This must be the outbreak Kieran mentioned. Maybe it really is a blight?
Jeez, this sounds serious.
Listen. The contestants have all been offered the opportunity to temporarily work with the Brigade in containing the situation.
I doubt that includes the ones that have been kicked out.
We'd like to request the aid of Mina Han.
Oh. Well, they're specifically going to ask her.
Back at the capital.
Oh my goodness.
Given the circumstances, we are willing to revoke the proving tournament expulsion once the festivities resume.
Yeah. This whole chapter has been nothing but a speed bump to go around in circles to come back to where you started.
With your help, we hope this incident will be resolved as quickly as possible.
This is really a terrible precedent to set also. That they need her help, so they bring her to the capital, and then they're going to let her back in the proving tournament after basically assaulting, intentionally or not, another contestant. What is that going to say to future contestants? That you might be able to get away with assaulting people? That's a bad precedent. If anything, they should ask her for her help, and then instead of putting her back in the proving tournament, just bring her on as a lowest of the low-level Battle Chef Brigade member, and just say, well, due to her service, we've decided to select her for the brigade, and that way you can have the Battle Chef Brigade say they've made a decision, while having the proving tournament committee or whoever's in charge of that say that they're still sticking to their rules.
The choice is fully yours, and we hope to hear from you soon. Stay safe and break a dish. The tournament committee.
Stay safe and break a dish. Is break a dish supposed to be like break a leg? That's an interesting phrase. They should have probably said that at the beginning of each tournament if that was going to be a phrase that they were going to use. Although breaking a dish, well, breaking a leg's not good either. It's a weird phrase. I wouldn't want to use it. Certainly. Breaking a dish is yet another way you could poison somebody potentially, or sort of poison them by having dangerous, inedible items in their food.
Absolutely not. You lost that privilege the moment you ran off with our money.
Oh, she robbed them too?
This is no longer about fun and games. The capital sounds way too dangerous right now, not to mention the roads.
So this is weird because now they're going to say no, and either she's going to run away again, or this is going to turn into an actual fight.
That's exactly why I should be there. I have a chance to do something good for once in my life.
Oh, Mimi.
Before I was careless. I was bored. I was only thinking about myself.
Sure, I'll agree with that sentence. But this is not the beginning of a good argument.
I didn't earn my place in the tournament. I stole it from the people who taught me the skills I was so desperate to prove. I don't deserve anything.
Mina, you need to calm down.
You two made this place with your
This
bare
again
hands.
feels just like
You
bad
gave
writing.
Saskia and I opportunities we couldn't get
And I'm
anywhere
fairly
else.
certain this is a Western game, so I don't think we have a localization issue here where this is being translated to English, and that's why it's so rough in the writing.
Opportunities I took for granted.
Kind of feels like this was an extremely long chapter just to have Mina apologize.
Now there's a way I can help you. A way I can make it up to you. By fixing the monster problem at its source. If I can find out what's going on, I can bring that knowledge back and make sure no one gets sick again. And we can keep serving customers like before.
It's kind of funny that the parents even are kind of rejecting this idea, because this society kind of feels like one of those Pokemon societies where you would let the 10-year-old boy in Ash Ketchum go on an adventure and spend the next few decades, or I don't know how much time has really passed in the Pokemon world, but it does seem like at least several years have passed since Ash Ketchum was left to just wander the countryside and collect Pokemon and try and be a Pokemon master. In the same way, this feels like a world where the parents of all children in this world would raise their kids to be a battle chef if that's their desire, and encourage them to go out on these adventures and go to the proving tournament.
Well,
I promise I'll write home this time. I'm going to be okay.
They even mentioned that she didn't write home.
Battle chefs.
I'm sorry, but you're still grounded. Stealing our flower money? That's a serious crime.
So she stole the flower money, which, yeah. They're making big deals here, and I guess some of this would probably make a little bit more sense if you had the character a little bit younger, but you run into a dangerous scenario there. Like, how young could you make Mina to make it feel more realistic that she would steal money and run away? And on the other hand, at a certain point, this does just kind of, because Mina looks like an adult to me, she strikes me as, at the youngest, 17 years old. At a certain point, this feels like this is just a straight up controlling, abusive relationship that the parents have, helicopter type parents, where they literally probably don't pay her to work at the restaurant. Obviously, otherwise she could have saved up the money instead of having to steal it. They give her literally no freedom, literally no choice in her life. It is not... They're trying to portray a story here where Mina is childish and unthinking, and to a certain level that's true, but the adults in this situation, the more mature adults, the parents here, they from a perspective certainly seem like they are actually terrible parents, because they're not encouraging their child's their younger daughter's dreams and her skills, which she actually can accomplish these dreams. They're not encouraging civic service. They're pushing the older daughter to get married, so they're trying to use her just to probably get some dowry or get rid of her. They're apparently controlling everything. They're apparently using all the kids as slave labor. They're planning on basically retiring and at some point and having Mina just run the restaurant to take care of them.
But
My baby girl, how are you ever going to survive out there if you don't understand sarcasm?
Alright, so here's the problem with having to press A whenever the story happens. So she was joking, but I stand by everything I said. Like, they may be not as terrible as they could be, but like the only way she wouldn't have been able to save up money for the Proving Ground tournament, which was only like 15 gold anyways, is that she's not getting paid anything at all to run the restaurant. So yeah, they're definitely using the kids as free labor. And yeah, at a certain level that's true, and certainly you can go back and forth and say, well, the kids should work and help support the family because they're getting fed and clothed and free housing. On the other hand, then you can go back and say, well, did these parents literally only have their kids so they could have free laborers? At a certain point, it, in my opinion, boils down to, did did the child get a vote in whether he was a child, became a human being at all, or is this child just born into 18 years of debt and slavery just because the parents got to choose and have a kid? And so, yeah, there's a certain balance there, and I wouldn't make a full argument that children shouldn't do chores, but at a certain point, if the children are doing actual jobs and not just taking up a fair share or taking care of their own things, it's one thing to make your own bed as a chore. It's another thing to make all the beds in the house. It's one thing to be able to wash your own dishes. It's a different thing that you're doing the dishes for the entire household every night. And there's definitely a different balance there. And I'm getting off on a tangent here, but this story is boring enough that I can go off on these tangents.
What? Huh?
I can't keep you here any more than I can keep the wind from blowing through the trees.
This is a great example of this. If the conversation just was going forward and I wasn't able to press it, if I didn't have to press A, if there was just an auto forward mode, I could just sit here in silence, listen to the bad dialogue or the mediocre dialogue at best, and get through
What's
this.
happening right now?
Your mother is letting you go. We all are.
Only the Brigade can stop what's happening. The best way to help the restaurant is to join them.
It's still kind of a selfish logic here. Like, we're only letting you join because it will save our restaurant. And there is ways to tell a save our store, save our favorite place, save our restaurant story. And this, I don't think, is a great way to tell that kind of story, because there would have to be a reason why you love this restaurant in particular. I don't think Mina cares anything about this restaurant or loves it in any way. It does not feel like home to her, from what I can get.
Oh, thank you, Ma, Pa, Kiki. Thank you.
Woohoo!
I mean, carry on, Han family. Don't mind me.
I'm going to help stop this monster mess. Then I'm coming right
Interesting,
back to the restaurant.
they animate these characters hugging, which that's once again a pose in an animation that's only going to get used once or twice.
No, you're not. This is our family's iron pan, passed down for generations. My mother gave it to me when I left home to create this restaurant with your father. It's time for you to have it.
It's not even a generation after generation long run restaurant. It's only been in the family for the parents' adult life. So we're gonna get a new pot. Maybe that helps us do something better with cooking. We have the combo pan as instead of the dull pan, and boy is that really, really flashy. At a certain point, I think this indicates that her mother, the grandmother that was just mentioned, and the first time she was mentioned, was actual royalty. Like, you don't have something that fancy. Well, in reality, you wouldn't have something that fancy anyways and actually cook out of it. That's a purely decorative pot if I've ever seen one. Gems and gemstones all on the edge. And it's designed in such a way that it seems like it would have some bonus on red essence more than blue essence or green essence, but that's not really the case. Multiple promotes done quickly activate magic to further enhance flavor. So it's a match +3 plus a combo bonus, but the combo bonus does not seem to automatically activate, which I feel like the game should probably do that, but it doesn't seem like it does. Why weren't they using the better quality cooker up until this point, though?
You are who you are, Mina, and that person needs to help others. I didn't want to let you go before, but I won't make the same mistake twice. I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become.
See, it almost feels like there are just two writers, and often it feels like this in the case of games, where they have 2 or 3 writers in the writing room. But in this case, it feels like there was 2 different ideas as far as how Mina would leave to go on her journey, and instead of agreeing on the proper way to leave, they've done both, which just wasted people's time.
And I couldn't be happier to be part of this family. I'm so sorry for the way I acted before.
Honestly, you could probably have just taken this second way of her leaving and given it to a different character, or gone with the first way. I'm not sure you need any of the family characters. Like, in my hypothetical way of the way I would have started this, I would have had Mina walking in the forest to the proving ground, just narrating, telling about herself, maybe mentioning her family, maybe not even mentioning the family at all, and just get rid of that whole element and focus the story very heavily on Mina and her journey to become a Battle Chef Brigader, instead of putting in family drama and visual novel stuff that is just taking us further and further away from actually playing the game.
Everyone stumbles, Mina. It's how you get up that matters.
Like, the only thing I think you can do with the family at this point
Time to stop feeling sorry
is
for yourself
that
and keep your chin up, okay?
you'll probably have a final battle at the proving ground, and the family will probably all show up, and the friend will probably all show up in the crowd.
But don't think we're not going to tease
And they're
you
just
for all
gonna
the
be
hoping.
like cheerleaders and supporters, which that's fine, but then why have the cheerleaders and supporters be the family characters instead of the cheerleaders and supporters in the final battle being the people that you challenged and fought and made new friends with on the way through the proving tournament?
I just had a lot on my mind.
Because you literally have at least 12, 13, 14, I would say at least 14 people in this story. They're just secondary characters. That's a lot of people. There's definitely some room for merging there. You merge the father character and the Thrash character together. You turn the medicinal Battle Chef character and the mother character, and you merge them together. You turn the restaurant mini game character Pontia, and you merge it with the older sister. You merge the male friend with the cat cafe owner. There's easy ways to reduce the number of people and have a tighter story.
I don't know. Definitely we're Mopey Mina.
Little mopey poo.
I was not.
Now they're teasing her.
Fine, maybe a little. Drink your water, Simon. You're still dehydrated.
Wow. And that was the entire chapter. Incredibly shorter on actual gameplay experience. Incredibly short. So apparently the capital city is part of Victusia and is getting zoomed in on the map. That'd be my guess. I still don't know why you're jumping several days each time. Even if you're traveling, it just seems kind of pointless to have such a tight calendar and focus on that.
You can't really imagine the capital from what travelers say. You have to be here and experience it.
So, yeah, the capital city is in Victusia, is the entire land.
I'll definitely be experiencing all the cuisine. Too bad about the meat, though.
Maybe your dad will finally stop telling you to put on weight.
Oh, that'll be the day. I'm still surprised we convinced him to let me come with you.
Does it benefit anything to have Simon as a companion? Not really. That you do have a perspective here where had Simon run away with you the first time, they could have written a note that was really brief, where it's like, "I've run away with Simon to the capital city. Good luck," or something like that. Just a very short sentence that then the mother could assume that they ran away to get married or to have an affair, as it were. That would be a very anime thing to do, is to have a comedic misunderstanding. But as for what is really going on here, with Mina being so focused on just doing the proving tournament, I don't think she's really going to have a romantic path that could happen here. So it kind of paints a dire picture where Simon is potentially going to get poisoned or kidnapped, and he is just going to become the damsel in distress to the hero. That's about all I could figure would actually happen. Seems like she'll probably have to pay for a new room, because she had paid for the full tournament, but then she got expelled from the tournament, so I wouldn't be surprised if they actually mentioned that. Yeah, I don't see how Simon becomes anything, unless the idea was late halfway through the game they were going to introduce co-op play, or he's going to become your sous chef. That you could do that. That would actually be fairly useful, is if there was some AI sous chef where he was preparing gems and you could just hand it over to him and he would act kind of like a stove and just slowly turn the gems up from level 1 to level 2, or you could have him deboning food. She kind of does need a sous chef, so. But Simon hasn't shown any ability to cook at all. If anything, he's hanging out at the restaurant, which seems to indicate he doesn't know how to cook.
I'd say your client expansion argument was pretty clever, especially since you made it up on the spot.
He could become the hype man to Mina and like make up a bunch of like outfits and titles and advertisements around Mina, but in the middle of this whole blight, I don't see how that would be really appreciated.
It's silly, but your speech to your family made me feel like it was time to try something new.
Look at you getting all mushy.
It'd be funny if you started playing as him and he just had like an incredibly natural ability to cook.
Yeah, well, you can pay me back with a restaurant tour.
Deal. But first, we should check out the inn. And then I need to find Thrash and Kieran.
Oh, you brought a friend. How nice.
So it'll be interesting to see if they both end up in the same room together, because it's not like this inn looks like it has a ton of room, although it very well might.
I have your rooms all ready.
Rooms?
Take your bags up.
So they are separate rooms?
Okay, there's something I haven't told you.
It would be kind of funny if you did throw in the twist that Mina and Simon have been secretly acting as lovers, and that now that they're at the capital city, they can no longer hide it. It would put a weird twist to the story. I don't know if it would really add anything, other than you could have a like French like love story style experience that I don't think Westerners would really be able to write something like that, and I don't even know if modern French people would be able to write something like that.
You chew on your pillow at night. Everyone knows that, Mina.
What? No, that's not even true. Did Kiki tell you that? Never mind. Anyway, you can't tell anyone this. Thrash, Kieran, and I have been looking into the monster epidemic. Now that I'm back, we're going to try to find the cause.
So apparently Simon wasn't in on that.
Do you want to help?
Nah.
Well, just nah.
You're not even going to think about it?
Mina, you have always had these grand ambitions. Me, though, I just want to grow the family business and go back to a peaceful life of talking to wheat stalls.
They're really not a good match for romantic interest, since Simon is so laid back and Mina is clearly ambitious.
I guess I knew that, but I wish we could tag team this.
I know. Just make sure you're back before dinner. I want to try that crescent place.
But in a funny way, Simon could potentially be a grounding influence on Mina, who potentially has her head in the clouds. Sometimes
This guy thinks
opposites
we're on
do
vacation.
attract. So then it zooms in from Brigade Town to the tournament area.
Blue Jay!
Now Thrash is giving her a new nickname he's never used before.
Mina, it's wonderful to see you.
Everybody's in the exact same outfits.
Kieran, Thrash! I missed you guys so much.
They needed to have a lot more conversation between these characters if these characters were supposed to be friends.
We missed you too.
Like, I talked
Down to business.
to these people as much as I think I possibly could, and I still don't think there was enough conversation or interaction to make them feel like they were really friends.
We don't have time to go into detail, but Thrash and I have been through a lot since you've been gone.
It feels like it's been at least 6 to 10 days, so you would have thought that all of these other people would have passed the proving tournament by now. Although maybe there's just longer gaps as the proving tournament goes on. So, like, there's a daily challenge at the beginning, but then once you're past the first 3 challenges, you take a week off, and then you do another challenge, and then you take like 2 weeks off to prepare, and perhaps you start thinking about who you're going to challenge and what those battles are going to be. If that was the case, though, they would still need to tell you like what the secret ingredient would have been and what the elements you need to focus on were before you actually got into the challenges, which would not be parroting Iron Chef at that point, but it would be a lot better for the gameplay mechanic and would make a lot more sense as a tournament to actually have people prove the skill. Iron Chef as a TV show throws in this element of having to think on your feet, which you don't really have to do that much as a professional chef. Like, there's an occasional thinking on your feet. If a food is bad, you have to 86 or eliminate an ingredient or an entire dish, but you generally know what you're trying to cook, what's on the menu, what people are expecting to be served.
Too much for my taste.
The bandits, the antidote, the dark realm. It sounds terrifying.
Who are the bandits? They're new.
Trust me, it's as bad as it sounds.
The positive side is that we've garnered new insights on this mutation. Causation is still unclear, but the monsters and Ardia's sickness seem to be correlated. I think we could be on the verge of a full-scale blight.
I'm still not sure who Ardia is. Is she the... No, that's Thorn. It wouldn't have hurt if they had made Thorn the one that was sick, because that could have been a great way to eliminate her as a character, since she is a thorny personality.
How did you figure it out?
She's a prime person to eliminate. If I was going to have a hunter like character to lead the hunts, I think I'd go with probably a highly energetic and enthusiastic hunter character, not a depressed, dumped character.
That was all you, Blue Jay. We got your letters, and Kieran ran some tests. Sure enough, the blood she took from Ardia had similar properties to the mutated monsters.
I guess it could have been that the Proving Ground tournament suspended a lot earlier, and it just took them several days to send a letter to Mina to tell her that the Proving tournament had been suspended. So it could have been just a couple days after she was expelled that the tournament ended.
Precisely. which could mean that a modified version of her antidote might cure the monsters themselves.
Kieran, you're a genius!
That remains to be seen. The cure is purely speculative at this stage.
How am I going to apply this antidote, though, to the monsters?
So, what's our next move?
Like, that seems like you'd have to either put it in a feed, which, oddly, that's where a game like this could really take it to the next level, is they could have you cooking food dishes specifically for animals that you would put the antidote into, and then you would just drop it in the animal collection area, the hunt area, and then the animals would potentially eat it and be cured. And you could have been introducing that idea even at the beginning of the game, where you would have cooked a simplistic kind of bait or just food in general that you could have dropped to enrich and increase the quality of the animals that you would hunt and get meat from.
I think we should report to our stations and see what the brigade needs from us. We don't have anything concrete to show them.
The
yet,
background
but
here
we can get
music
more
is
samples
getting
from Kieran to
fairly
test.
repetitive, but of course I am pausing between each.
Agreed. It's our wisest course of action. What do you think, Mina?
Alright, well, why are you going to ask Mina's opinion when 2 people out of the group of 3 have already agreed? Because if she has a contrary opinion, all she could voice it, but she'd be overruled.
I'm with you all the way.
All right, we should get going then. Let's meet up again.
Although I guess maybe she could make a impassioned argument against doing something different. That's one of those examples where the video game logic of having the hero make all the real decisions comes into play. Alright. So if we go over here, we can see that we're back to the inn room, which looks exactly like our bedroom. It's just like a mistake to have that so redundant. Then it's been just so long. So let's see, we had this match for double promote pan that we never got to use, and we now have a match 3 combo bonus pan, which we haven't used. And I'm not sure that removing taste gems even makes sense anymore. It kind of feels like what you should do is, well, you can't even do this easily. You have to do this to equip this to equip this. Yeah. And as far as upgrading anything else, yeah, there's an idea there. Not much, and we just have like 44 coins. It's still incredibly slow. Yeah, we're still having a really slow process of going through the story. The good news is we're done through chapter 3, so it could be that the story just kind of abruptly ends after chapter 4, and the final thing that happens at the game is the fact that you defeat the proving tournament and get your become a Battle Chef Brigadier. And then in some thought, maybe the game would have hoped for a sequel where she would have gone on a bigger adventure after that. That's about all I can really expect to happen here, because we definitely will be sidetracked taking on bad guys and whatever the bigger enemy is that is clearly acting in the shadows. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.